Hello. I'm live. Hey everyone. Welcome to our training. I'm really excited to talk to you about this topic. And really, like, the intention is I don't want to talk at you with the topic. I mean, if you're here live, great, participate. If you're here on the replay, definitely give me a hashtag replay so I know you're here. But I want to actually use this training. Excuse me, I'm getting over being sick. I want to use this training to start a conversation, because although we're talking about 5 ways, right? 5 ways that you might be unconsciously blocking men or love from your life. Really, there's more than 5, right? Like, let's be realistic here. There's definitely way more than 5. These are the 5 common ones that I sort of see coming up with my clients. But I want this to spark a conversation, because one of the things that I'm really aware of when you post a title like, 5 ways that you might be unconsciously blocking love, it can feel almost like, and I know that this happens a lot in the new agey kind of self-help world, it could feel a little bit like you're being blamed. Like, you know, obviously it's your fault, right? That something's happening, or not happening rather, in your love life. And that's why I want this to be more of a conversation, because the bottom line is nothing is wrong with you. You don't need fixing, and this is not your fault. And I say all of that even knowing what I'm about to present to you, because look, we all have stuff that is unconsciously going on. The fact remains, and I've been a coach for a very long time, if you don't have what it is that you want in your life, somehow it's being blocked, whether it's because of your unconscious belief systems, or whether it's because of circumstance or divine timing, which, P.S., you having the man in your life that you want and the relationship in your life that you want has a lot to do with divine timing as well. So there's all the work that we can do and all the prep that we can continuously be doing. But again, not from a place of I'm broken and I need to fix myself before I find the person. No, but from the energy of I'm going to keep using my singlehood as an opportunity to continue getting curious and exploring if there's anything here, and if there's anything left that needs repairing or needs healing. Guess what? When you meet the guy, you're going to still have stuff come up that needs healing. It's never ending. And I really want to send the message here that this is about getting curious with your self-help and your personal work, rather than feeling like it's punishing, right? Like, oh, I got to do more work here. Or, maybe when I tell you the 5 things and we break them down, you're going to feel like, oh God, I've already worked on all this stuff before. Like, why is she going through this again? And like, how many times do I have to look at that? And here's the thing, if you approach your personal development and your personal growth work from that energy, it's always going to feel heavy. It's always going to feel like a slog. It's always going to feel like, oh my God, am I there yet? Am I there yet? Here's the thing, you're never going to be there yet. There is no there yet, okay? For as long as you're taking a breath in this life, you're going to have some personal growth work to do. And if that's a high value for you, like it is for me, then you know what? It becomes curious, and it becomes part of this, like, okay, what's next here? And how else could I approach this? And let's be realistic. It's not always fun and games. Like, we know this. My earring is really hitting this microphone, isn't it? I'm going to just do this. I'm going to take out my earrings for you guys. It's not always fun and games, right? It's sometimes it's hard and it's triggering, and it's like, oh, like, why am I doing this again? However, if we get curious about it, if we become light around it, and if we don't use our singlehood as a waiting room for, like, okay, when's the next date going to happen, or when's the next guy going to happen, then we can actually make it almost fun, right? We can make it almost fun. And I say that not fully tongue in cheek, because sometimes I know, trust me, it's not fun, but we can actually come to it with a lighter energy, as opposed to, oh my God, I'm broken, I have all this work to do. You're not broken. And yeah, you might have work to do, but the outcome is going to be amazing, right? And if you're here and you're committed to personal growth, I know that that is top of mind for you. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, if you're here and you're not single, you could still be unconsciously blocking love in your life. And you're thinking, well, I'm not single. I have a person. How could it be blocking love? Well, you could still be blocking love in the dynamics of that relationship from any one of these 5 things that I'm going to bring forward to you. So this is also for you. So if you're here live, I'm going to be periodically checking the comment section below. And if you're not here live, then again, send me a hashtag replay. Let me know what resonates for you in this, which points were like, oh my God, that's me, right? And let me know if this is something that you want more trainings around and if you want more help around. Definitely have a couple of ideas in mind for the coming months, especially since my book has launched. If you're here and you're watching and you haven't grabbed a copy of my book yet, I'm going to post a link under this so you can grab a copy. But yeah, so like lots of ideas coming to mind for trainings, but I want to hear from you. Like, how did this land for you? What points have really struck home for you? So let's dive in. So what are these 5 ways? And again, like I said in the beginning, there's way more than 5 ways, right? And our job, right, according to A Course in Miracles and pretty much every spiritual teaching out there, is to find and uncover the blocks to love's presence. And as we uncover the blocks to love's presence, we will invite in the experience we want to have in our life, whether it is abundance or relationship or career success or whatever that might be. That this is our main job here, and it's not an easy job. Like, not gonna lie, I'm doing the work with you guys, right? So the first one here, and I have my notes up here in case you see me tapping my finger somewhere. The first way that you can unconsciously be blocking love, right? Your man, that relationship you want, or the experience in the current relationship that you want, could be that there are some unconscious negative belief systems around men or the masculine. And I'm going to separate those two for the purpose of teaching this. So men, obviously, negative beliefs around men, stuff like all men are cheaters, all men are looking for their mom, all men are this, or men blank, fill in the blank, right? A generalization that you have about men. It could be conscious. It could be something that you keep hearing yourself repeat and say. It could be something that when you're out with your girlfriends and you're chatting and you're kind of like bitching about life, that this comes up, right? Pay attention to what that is. But mostly it could be something unconscious. And so each of us has potential, right? Not all of us, but potential wounding around our caregivers, right? And there is a mother wound, right? And there's a father wound. And around the mother wound, things tend to show up around trusting, and you might see issues around your female relationships, right? You may also see that you are attracting partners that will mirror to you what that difficult relationship was with your mother. This is also where we get into attachment trauma and styles, which we'll talk about in a minute. So there is that mother wound, which again is an upcoming training that I'm putting together for you. And there's also the father wound. And the father wound is where we get a lot of our wounds around men. Okay, so depending on how that was for you, did you find yourself constantly approval seeking with your father? Was he somebody that you just could never get his approval no matter what you tried? Was there a lot of pressure? Was there a lot of criticism? Was there a lot of attention, or maybe no attention at all? How is it that you have that hunger, right, or that hungry ghost around your relationship with your father? So the first one that I'm talking about here, the unconscious ways or beliefs that we think about men, can definitely be tracked into that primary relationship you have with your first caregiver, who was a man. Maybe he was completely absent and not there at all. Maybe he was absolutely wonderful and you just can't find anyone that is going to meet up, right, or match up to where he placed you as a father. So there's lots that can go on around that father wound, right? Secondary to that is, what has been your experience of men as you were just being in the world, right? So we have all, especially since the dawn of the Me Too movement, we've all had to take a really, really keen, like under the microscope view of our relationship to the patriarchy. So now we're not talking about men specifically, but the energy of the patriarchy, right? And what that has represented and been in our lives, okay? Have we seen our family members being used or abused or cheated on, or etc., or has it happened to us? And so then therefore we carry some wounding around our relationship to men. So that's the men part. The masculine part, masculine is an energy. It's not I'm not talking about it here in terms of a gender identity, a sexual orientation, or anything like that. I'm talking about masculine and feminine as energy, right? So just like yin and yang, just like positive and negative on a magnet, okay? So if you really want to just keep it in the scientific, positive and negative on a magnet. By the way, that's the true meaning of opposites attract, right? So there is a universal law of polarity, and the law of polarity states that opposites attract, right? So the positive and the negative end of the magnet will draw each other together. The negative and negative push each other apart. The positive and positive push each other apart. So even in a same-sex relationship, there has to be polarity, right? There has to be polarity there. So regardless if we refer to it as masculine, feminine, yin and yang, positive or negative, it doesn't really matter. They're just words. But knowing that there is a masculine energy, that you, who potentially are a predominantly, feminine energy residing person, there could be a negative relationship around masculine energy that is lurking around in you. It could be that you, because of defense mechanisms, are leaning into your own masculine energy more than you are in your feminine energy. And that creates almost an invisible barrier and almost a repelling mechanism to a man who is predominantly strong in his masculine, right? All these things that we have learned through the women's movement and all the people that came before us about being strong feminist women and being independent and kicking ass and taking names, all of that is wonderful. And we can very easily, as women, if we're not practicing that feminine energy muscle of leaning back, receiving, vulnerability, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but allowing ourselves to be in flow, all of those ways in which we sort of deny those pieces of ourselves and opt for the go, go, go and the achieve and what's the next thing and what's the next, career ambition. All of those can put us in a masculine energy. And of course, opposites attract. So if you are of the feminine energy predominance and you want to attract this man in his masculine, guess what? He's going to be repelled by that energy. So there's practices and ways that both of these things can be healed and can be looked at, and daily ways that you can start to repair in this section. So that's the first one. The second one is not allowing him, meaning your potential mate or the one that you're with now, not allowing him to see where he can add value. And this kind of dovetails to that first point that I just made about being in your masculine too much. Here's the thing, the masculine, in terms of the energy, right? They want to feel like they're bringing value. They want to feel like, not that they're coming in and rescuing you, right? But they want to know that if you did need rescuing, that they could, right? They want to feel useful. They want to know that they are bringing something. The masculine energy is about doing and achieving and supporting. And, this is where a lot of women that, I coach that are in relationships will sometimes complain like, oh, my husband, or my partner, he just wants to come in and fix everything. And that can be frustrating, right? But that is part of what the masculine essence is. Like, they're fixers. They want to get in there. They want to be able to support. And if you are presenting and I got this, I'm good, right? I call it Misindependent Syndrome. If that is your predominant energy, if your predominant energy is I don't need a man, then first of all, stop dating because you're going to come up disappointed every single time. There has to be an acknowledgement somewhere within you where you actually do need a man, right? And that's edgy to say because back in the day, I didn't want to admit this for myself. I was a card-carrying feminist member, girl power, right? Like power to the women. So why would I admit that? Why would I say that? That makes me weak, or that makes me some kind of lovesick little schoolgirl. Like that's not, I don't like that. Well, if I wasn't ready and willing to admit where I needed, not just desired, but actually also needed that masculine presence in my life, if I couldn't soften enough to say those words, I was totally blocking it every single time. Because guess what? You could go on a date with the most perfect match for you. But if that's the energy that you're bringing to it, right? If that is the energy that you're bringing to this interaction, right? I don't need you. I'm good. I got this. Like, kicking ass, taking names. That's fantastic. That's an admirable trait. We don't want to change who you are. And if that is where your resting point is all the time, then that could be also this energy you're bringing into your interactions where, this person in front of you, they're not going to feel useful, powerful to bring to this person's life. Imagine if you were friends with someone, really good friends with someone. You started developing this friendship. And each time, oh, we got to check our internet connection here. Let's make sure that our internet is strong, people. Pause, 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 pause. I'm going to just make sure that I am not, that I'm sucking up all the juice in the house here. All right. So if we are bringing this energy, right, to our interactions with men, this I don't need a man and I got this, again, there's something admirable about being that strong, independent woman. And the guy that you probably want in your life, you want him to cheerlead that. You want him to be the, like, absolutely, yes, go girl, right? And if that's always what you're bringing and he feels that there is no way he can bring value to your life, that is going to push him away. The example I was just about to give you was the example of being in a friendship with someone and that person's energy towards you was like, I don't really need to be friends with you. Like, my life is great. I'm doing great on my own. I travel, I make money, I'm independent. Like it's kind of nice to be friends with you, but like I really don't need to be friends with you. How long would you stay friends with that person? Okay, so think about that in context of a romantic relationship. Okay, so that's number two. Number three is this expectation that sparks are supposed to fly immediately, right? Like there's supposed to be immediate sparks as soon as you go out on the first date, that person or you or like fall in love or there's some kind of amazing attraction. And the truth of the matter is that while that can be exciting, oftentimes when those intensity of sparks happen immediately, those are the relationships that fizzle out pretty fast. And the reason for that is because his broken and unhealed parts, and you're coming together. And while that could be beautiful because there could be a potential for massive healing that happens there, it's very short lived. While that's not always the case, that is very often the case. So this expectation of these amazing fireworks happening right away is often not realistic because if you again go back to, the litmus test of a friendship, like a true friendship grows over time and spending time together and finding what's common with each other and relating every day more and more with each other. And so if you think about that with this potential significant other, this could be definitely something where it's a slow burn situation. Now, everyone always asks me, how do I know? How do I know? Because if I'm really, really bored and I keep being bored, am I just holding out? Am I just staying there? Well, no. There is a line where you're like, okay, there's no chemistry here and I can't really see it going anywhere. And you do have to honor that, right? This isn't about me telling you to dishonor that and just ignore that. You do have to honor that. And there is a time and place for you to make that decision. But very often with this number 3 point, we have an expectation of that happening too quickly and too fast. And we're actually putting aside potential partners that could really be nourishing to us, and have something beautiful grow from that. So keep that in mind. Maybe it's the first date and you haven't felt that right away. And maybe there's a little something there and you go out a second time and you're busy, looking for all the red flags, right? Because this is a self-protection mechanism. Is like, is he this? Is he that? Was he chewing funny? I don't know. Is that going to bug me? And that constant looking for those red flags, right, is as it probably could be point number 6, because that's another way that we block love. But that's a way that we are just constantly on this hypervigilance for this amazing spark to fly. And if it's not there, then obviously this isn't going to work. And again, very often we could be pushing aside potentially amazing men. Number 4, not addressing your attachment issues and your anxieties. So I mentioned this briefly when we talked about the mother wound in point number 1. But this is where it's really important to start to understand what your attachment style is. Do you lean more towards anxious attachment? Are you an avoidant? Maybe you're secure, okay? So there's three main attachment styles that I just mentioned: anxious, avoidant, and secure. Obviously, as the name suggests, secure is the gold star standard that we want to either work towards becoming secure ourselves or attracting a partner who is secure. Okay. The other two styles, anxious and avoidant, very often we have people who are in their attachment either via the dating process or within being in the first few months of a committed relationship. And these anxieties are coming up, and really they come up to and they unconsciously just take over. And so it's almost like you have suddenly a little kid running around with scissors in your love life, and you're not really even consciously aware of why you're behaving the way you're feeling, and why all of a sudden, like maybe you're this strong, amazing, confident woman in the boardroom, or you have your business together, or your life together, your job, everything's great. And then suddenly you start dating someone and you become this anxious mess. Is he going to text me back? Is he going to, like, how come he's not answering me? Like, well, he pulled away a little bit. What does that mean? And this is very often how an anxious attachment style will manifest, because there is a deep, deep fear of abandonment. And so that fear of abandonment will rear its ugly head. And very often, an anxious attached person will manifest, will actually draw in someone who's avoidant. And an avoidant, believe it or not, they really want love too. And they have this bit of a fear of abandonment themselves. But more than abandonment, they fear engulfment. They fear losing themselves in the love relationship. They fear losing that sense of self and their freedom. And they will avoid or push love away when it gets too intense. And so, you could probably already see this dynamic as I'm explaining it. It's kind of a bit of a push and pull cat and mouse game. And this is very often the case that's happening with women as they're dating. And how do you get off that cycle? What do you do to stop that cycle and to actually start working towards becoming a more securely attached person? Well, that's understanding and knowing what your attachment style is, right? It's a way bigger topic than this one training. There is a video in the group that I did, one of my very first videos that I talked about this. But understanding your style and learning how to work with it and working towards becoming a more securely attached person, which is really all about, cultivating that relationship to yourself and your inner child. That is a huge step in putting you in alignment with the relationship that you want to create. Last point is not expanding your heart and embracing vulnerability. So this also actually dovetails perfectly into that whole masculine and feminine energy. Very often, we have been raised to think of vulnerability as a weakness. Thank God for Brene Brown, right? She put vulnerability on the map. She made it cool to talk about vulnerability. And vulnerability is really, it really is a superpower. And if you can become comfortable with your own vulnerabilities, if you can learn that self-forgiveness and self-compassion around what makes you vulnerable, once you're okay with your own vulnerability, you will never fear it being taken advantage of from someone else. Because guess what? Once you're comfortable with your vulnerability, you get to choose who you share it with. And it is a privilege for someone to share in your vulnerability. So if you get to choose, then you can never ever be hurt again by putting your vulnerability out there, because now you can develop, along with this okayness with your own vulnerability, this discernment on who actually is worthy of you sharing that vulnerability with and who is not. And so working on this piece, again, it dovetails into how are you cultivating that feminine energy within yourself? Again, if you're someone who leans more towards having that feminine energy, that polarity, how do you work with that? How do you understand that better? Well, part of being okay with your own vulnerability and putting it out there is that healing of that inner child, right? That little girl within who is probably like that tough girl facade has really helped her out, right? It's really benefited her. It's probably put her through school. It's probably had her, like I said earlier, kicking ass, taking names. Maybe she's achieved something for herself. She's probably raised babies. Like that tough exterior has really helped you. And now when it comes to wanting to create a happy, healthy, beautiful relationship, or even just attracting in that person initially to have that with, if we're afraid of our own vulnerability, if we don't understand it, if we haven't found a way to work with it, we can really get tripped up by that point, right? So this is another one of the common themes I see with women that I work with, both in group and individual. So those are the 5 ways that we do this. I'm going to just open this up again here just to recap. So the first one was unconscious negative beliefs about men and the masculine. The second one was not allowing him to see where he can add value to your life. The third one was expecting the sparks to fly immediately. Number 4 was not addressing or understanding your attachment issues or anxieties. And number 5 was not expanding your heart and embracing vulnerability. A man can really feel when your heart is open versus when it's closed and protective. And how can you come to terms with that closure and protection so that you can keep it open and receptive and still feel strong and powerful and not feeling like you might get hurt or you might be losing something? So again, there's lots of ways, as I said in the beginning, that of course we can unconsciously block love. You can do this whether you're in a relationship right now, whether you're on the dating scene. There's all these ways and we do this. And again, this training is more to plant that seed, right? This isn't about, well, here's all the ways that you're broken and you have to continue to work on yourself until, you're broke and you're just like sick of it, right? It's not about that. It's actually about approaching your personal growth, especially your growth around love and relationships, from a place of curiosity, from a place of, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I do that, or I wonder if I'm still doing that, right? If you've worked on these before, it's like, I wonder if there's something else in there. And again, not from this energy of like, oh, what a slog, and I don't want to have to keep fixing myself to find someone. It's actually not about that, right? So you're never going to arrive at a place where you're 100% fixed, whatever that means, right? And then, okay, you're ready and that guy's going to come in. Like, that's just BS, right? That's BS, new agey, like, you got to love yourself fully first before someone else can love you. Like, yeah, you do. And there's no way you're ever going to be fully cooked in this lifetime, okay? So your job is just to do that work to get you there, to meet that person who is going to journey with you along the rest of your life path, okay? Very often I work with women, they meet someone, it's wonderful. It's not like they fall off the face of the earth and they're like, all right, my work is done here. I met the guy, I'm happy. It's like, no, that's when the rubber meets the road, right? And that's when other triggers will come up, or, ways of relating will show up. And it all has to come back to the relationship you have with yourself, okay? What is the relationship you hold with yourself? What's the relationship you're currently having with your source, whatever that might be, your intuition, your higher self, God, the universe? And then ultimately, how do those two relationships with yourself and your source come together to affect the other? Okay. So I hope this was helpful. I really want to hear from you. How did this resonate with you? Was there one of the 5 points that was like, oh my God, that one is totally me? Maybe it's all 5. I don't know. Maybe there's 3. Write it in the comments. Give me a hashtag replay. Let me know what resonated and what landed for you. I'm really dying to hear. And hey, if this is something that, you did resonate with and you're like, I really want to use this time I have to continue exploring and growing and stretching myself as a person to become the woman that I want to become, to have this amazing relationship, then please do get in touch. I'm going to post a link also in the comments where you can get in touch to book a Love Insight call. And we can talk about what it might look like to work together and see if we're a match, because it's not for everybody, of course. But reach out to me. I would love to have the conversation with you and support you in this stage of your growth. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the training. We're exactly at the 30-minute mark. This is awesome. I love when timing works out. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you very soon.